What happens when your own uncle scams the family and admits he owes dangerous people? So I honestly don't even know where to start. This past weekend was supposed to be just a normal family visit. My mom had invited me over to her house because Uncle Carl was coming by. She said, "It's been too long, you should come see everyone." I didn't think much of it. Carl has always been the fun uncle, the one cracking jokes, telling old family stories, showing up with a bottle of whiskey and a loud laugh. But underneath all that charm, I've always felt something was off with him. My dad used to roll his eyes whenever Carl's name came up, muttering, "That man couldn't tell the truth if it smacked him in the face." Anyway, I get there around 4 p.m. My mom's house smells like baked chicken and rosemary. She always overcooks when guests come. Carl shows up about half an hour later, wearing his flashy leather jacket and carrying some fancy binder. He hugs everyone dramatically, like he's the star of a soap opera. My uncle Dan was already there too. Dan is Carl's younger brother, and let's just say those two haven't gotten along since, well, forever. You can feel the tension as soon as they're in the same room. We're all sitting in the living room, plates on our laps, when Carl clears his throat like he's about to make a speech. He opens the binder and says, "I have an opportunity for the family, something that could set us all up." I kid you not, that was like watching a live commercial. He starts flipping through glossy papers showing some investment plan with big charts and numbers. He claims he's working with a partner company and that if we all chip in a small starting amount, we'll see double returns in 6 months. My mom looked nervous. She kept glancing at Dan. He was gripping his fork like he wanted to stab something. Dan finally cut him off. "Carl, cut the bullshit. You've pulled this crap before. Remember when you invested mom's savings in that horse breeding scam? Asterisk." The room went dead silent. Carl smiled that fake smile he always does and said, "That was different. This is legit. I've done my research." I spoke up because something about the documents didn't sit right. The logo on the papers looked pixelated, like it had been copied off Google. I asked, "Where exactly is this company registered?" Carl shot me this look, sharp as a knife. "Lisa, don't get lost in the details. Sometimes you have to trust family." And that right there, that word, family, felt like a weapon. I could see my mom shifting uncomfortably, torn between her two brothers. Dan, on the other hand, wasn't holding back. He stood up and said, "You're not scamming us again, not this time." Carl's face darkened. "Scamming, that's what you think of me? Typical jealous little brother, always trying to make me look bad." And just like that, the old sibling rivalry exploded in front of me. Dan didn't back down. He stepped right in front of Carl, practically nose to nose. "This isn't about jealousy, it's about the fact that every time you show up, someone in this family ends up screwed over. You left me to deal with Dad's debts while you play big shot in Vegas. Don't you dare play the victim here." My mom tried to calm them down. "Please, both of you, not in my house," but Carl cut her off. "Oh, here we go, Dan the martyr, pretending he's the responsible one. You think you're better than me because you stayed here, because you played nursemaid while I was out hustling. You've always envied me." I swear I felt my chest tighten. This wasn't just about money, this was years of resentment boiling over. I leaned closer to the binder Carl had brought and pretended to casually flip through it. The company's headquarters address was listed at the bottom of one of the pages. My stomach dropped. I recognized it instantly. It was the address of an old strip mall that got torn down 2 years ago. "Carl," I said slowly, "this address doesn't even exist anymore." He yanked the binder out of my hands so fast my fingers stung. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't spread lies." Dan smirked, the kind of smirk that said, "Gotcha." "She caught you, Carl. Same old tricks. You make up some big opportunity, guilt-trip mom, and when it all collapses, you blame everyone else." That's when mom finally lost it. She slammed her plate down so hard the fork rattled. "Enough, I can't take this anymore. Every time you two are together, it's a war zone. Carl, if this is another scam," she choked up, her eyes watery. "I can't watch you drag this family down again." Carl's face softened for a second, like maybe there was guilt there. But just as quickly, he masked it with anger. "So that's how it is. You're all against me. I come here trying to share an opportunity, and you crucify me." I blurted out before I could stop myself. "Carl, stop acting like you're the victim. You literally tried to get us to invest in something that doesn't exist. That's fraud, whether you want to call it that or not." The word hung in the air, fraud. Mom's hand went to her mouth like I'd just sworn in church. Dan crossed his arms triumphant. Carl's voice cracked as he spat out, "You don't understand. None of you do. I didn't have the chances you did. I had to hustle, had to make something out of nothing. And now when I finally tried to do something for all of us, you spit in my face." The room was thick with tension. Mom was trembling. Dan looked ready to throw a punch, and Carl looked like a cornered animal. And then he dropped the bomb. "If you think I'm lying, then check for yourself. But when you realize I was right, don't come crawling back." He grabbed his binder and stormed toward the door. But the fight wasn't over, not even close. The front door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Carl's leather jacket flashed one last time before he disappeared into the night, binder clutched like a lifeline. For a second, the only sound was the hum of the fridge. Mom sank into her chair, covering her face with her hands. "Why does he always do this to us?" she whispered. Dan let out a bitter laugh. "Because he knows he can. He thrives on chaos." He looked at me. "Lisa, you saw it. You saw the lies in that binder." I nodded. My pulse was still racing. "It's not just lies. That address was a fake. I bet half of what he showed us was made up." Dan pulled out his phone and started typing furiously. "Then let's prove it right now." We huddled around the kitchen table while Dan ran searches. Sure enough, that investment company Carl claimed to represent didn't exist in any registry. The so-called partners listed on the documents were either dead links or names that came up as scam alerts. Mom looked sick. "Oh my god, he really was going to try to take our money." Her voice cracked on the last word, and I felt this rush of anger on her behalf. Carl wasn't just playing games, he was preying on the very people who still gave him a chance. Dan slammed his phone down. That son of a BTCH, he hasn't changed since high school. He stole from me back then, too, took my savings to start a band and spent it all in a week, asterisk. Mom gasped. You never told me that. What would have been the point? Dan shot back. You've always forgiven him, he banks on that forgiveness. The kitchen grew quiet again. But this time, it wasn't just grief, it was resolve. I could see it in Dan's eyes. He wasn't going to let this slide. I broke the silence. We need to confront him. If we don't, he'll just go to someone else in the family. Aunt Maggie, Cousin Phil, he'll keep circling until someone takes the bait. Mom shook her head violently. No, I can't handle another fight. But Dan wasn't asking. He was already grabbing his keys. Then I'll handle it. Something in me clicked, and before I knew it, I was standing too. I'm coming with you. If Carl thinks he can gaslight us, I want to look him in the eye when we show him the proof. Mom reached out, her voice trembling. Don't do this, please. He's your uncle. He's still my brother. Dan froze at the doorway. He stopped being a brother the moment he tried to scan his own family. And with that, we left. The night air was cool and sharp as we drove toward Carl's apartment. My stomach twisted the whole way, not just from anger, but from dread. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about money. This was about two brothers locked in a lifelong war, and I was about to walk straight into the battlefield. Carl lived in this rundown apartment complex on the edge of town, the kind where the parking lot lights flicker and you can hear arguments within walls. Dan parked his truck hard, the tires crunching on gravel. He looked at me and muttered, "Stay behind me. He's not gonna like this." My heart was pounding. I kept picturing Carl's face when I called him out at Mom's house, the fury, the shame. He wasn't going to take this kindly. We climbed the narrow stairwell, the smell of cigarettes and fried food hanging in the air. Dan knocked on Carl's door loud enough to make it echo. A beat later, the door creaked open. Carl stood there, still in that damn leather jacket, eyes bloodshot. He looked at us, then at Dan's clenched jaw and sneered. Well, the jealous brother and his little sidekick, what do you want now? Dan didn't even flinch. He shoved his phone in Carl's face. I want you to explain this. The company you tried to sell us on doesn't exist. The partners don't exist. The whole thing's a fraud. Carl rolled his eyes, but his smirk wavered. You think a Google search makes you Sherlock Holmes? You don't know how business works. I stepped forward. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. No, Carl, this isn't business. This is you trying to rip off your own family again. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt. Regret? But then he laughed, sharp and cold. You know what this is really about? Dan can't stand that I've always been the one with ambition. He stayed home, played it safe, and now he wants to drag me down too. Dan's face turned red. Ambition? You call scanning Mom ambition? You call stealing from me ambition? You've never built a damn thing in your life, Carl. You just take and lie and take some more. Carl stepped closer, chest puffed. At least I wasn't Dad's favorite. At least I didn't have everything handed to me. You were the golden boy, and I was the screw-up. I had to fight for scraps. Dan's fist clenched, but he didn't swing. His voice cracked instead. You think I had it easy? I stayed here because someone had to. I took care of Dad when he was dying. I worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, while you ran off chasing get-rich-quick schemes. I carried this family. The air was so thick I could barely breathe. Carl's bravado faltered, but then he doubled down. You always wanted me to fail. Admit it, you wanted me stuck as a screw-up so you could feel superior. I couldn't take it anymore. This isn't about who Dad loved more or who sacrificed more. This is about you trying to steal from the people who still care about you. If you keep doing this, Carl, you're not just the screw-up, you're the enemy. That word enemy seemed to knock the wind out of him. His jaw tightened. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. Dan whispered, almost to himself, maybe he always has been. And the silence that followed was heavier than any shouting match. Carl backed up slowly, like my words had physically hit him. His apartment behind him was a mess of papers scattered, empty bottles on the counter, blinds half broken. For once, he looked small. But then his expression shifted, bitter and sharp. You really think this is the first time? You think you just caught me in one little scheme? Dan's head snapped up. What are you saying? Carl gave this hollow laugh. You're both so naive. Remember when Aunt Maggie suddenly lost half her savings back in 18? She thought it was some bad stock pick. That was me. Or when Cousin Phil's business loan mysteriously tanked. That was me too. I've been keeping this family afloat in my own way. I felt my stomach turn. Keeping us afloat? You destroyed them. You conned your own family for years. Carl's eyes gleamed, almost proud. They needed lessons. Everyone worshipped Dad, the responsible one, the saint. Meanwhile, I was drowning. Nobody gave a damn about me unless I had something flash to show, so I made myself matter. If that meant bending the rules, so be it. Dan's voice shook with rage. You ruined lives because of your jealousy. Don't twist this into some noble crusade. Carl slammed his fist against the wall, making a picture frame tilt. Jealousy. You don't get it. You had Dad's respect, Mom's trust, the family's love. I had nothing, so yeah, I hustled, I lied, I schemed, because that was the only way anyone noticed me. The silence after that was deafening. For the first time, I saw tears in Dan's eyes. He whispered, you think we didn't notice you? Carl, we noticed. We just stopped trusting you. That hit harder than any insult. Carl's mouth opened, but no words came out. His chest rose and felt like he was choking on his own pride. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Carl, this doesn't have to keep happening. You can admit what you've done. You can make it right. For a split second, I thought he might. His shoulders slumped, his eyes glistened. But then almost instantly, his mask slammed back into place. You want me to confess, to hand myself over so you two can sit on your high horse? Not a chance. Dan snapped. He grabbed Carl by the collar, yanking him forward. This ends now. If you ever try to scam Mom again, I swear. Dan, stop. I cried, pulling him back. His fists were shaking, his face flushed. Carl adjusted his jacket, smirking again, but it was weaker now. See, the golden boy loses his temper too. Guess we're not so different after all. Dan's voice dropped low and deadly serious. No, Carl, we're nothing alike, because I still have a conscience. Carl's smirk faltered. For the first time, he looked scared. And I realized this wasn't just about money or rivalry anymore. This was a man unraveling, and we were standing on the edge of something dangerous. Carl paced the cramped apartment like a caged animal, muttering under his breath. The bravado was gone, replaced with this twitchy energy that made the hair on my arm stand up. Dan stood rigid by the door, arms crossed, blocking the exit. You're not weaseling your way out this time. Carl spun on him, wild-eyed. What, you gonna drag me to the cops, tell the family? You think they'll thank you for exposing me? No, they'll hate you for tearing me down. I could feel my heart in my throat. Carl, stop, you're spiraling. Just breathe, okay? You can fix this before it gets worse. He barked out a laugh, sharp and bitter. Fix this, Lisa, there's nothing to fix. You think anyone ever gave me a chance to be better? No, and the screw up, the con, the one nobody counts on, so fine, I'll play the villain. Dan stepped forward. Then own it, admit what you did, and maybe... Admit it? Carl cut him off, his voice rising. You don't get it, if I admit it, I'm done. No one will ever trust me again, not Mom, not Maggie, not anyone, I'll be erased. The desperation in his tone made my stomach twist. He wasn't defending himself anymore, he was fighting for his identity, as warped as it was. Then Carl did something that chilled me. He grabbed the binder off the counter, ripped out a handful of the fake documents, and shoved them at us. Look at it, this was supposed to prove I was worth something, that I could bring success instead of failure, but no, all you see is fraud. The papers fluttered to the floor, charts and graphs scattering across the carpet like confetti at a funeral. Dan didn't even look down. His voice was like steel. Because it is fraud, and you're dragging everyone down with you. You think this is about proving yourself, it's about greed, and I won't let you destroy what's left of this family. Carl froze. His jaw clenched, his eyes darted between me and Dan. Then, with a sudden burst of movement, he lunged toward the door, but Dan caught him, shoving him back against the wall. Enough running. Dan roared. I rushed between them, pushing Dan's chest. Stop, this isn't the way. Carl's face was pale, sweat glistening on his forehead. For the first time, he looked cornered, and not like a schemer caught in a lie, but like a man who'd been stripped of every excuse. And then, almost in a whisper, he said it, you don't understand, if I don't pull this off, I owe people, bad people. The air went cold. My skin prickled. Dan's grip loosened. What the hell do you mean by that? Carl didn't answer right away. He just looked at us, broken and defiant all at once. And I realized that this wasn't just sibling rivalry or family fraud anymore. Carl had dragged something darker into our lives, something that could explode far beyond our living room. Carl slumped into a chair, rubbing his temples like the weight of the world had finally crashed down on him. His voice was low, ragged. I borrowed money from people you don't cross. I thought if I could flip it fast with this investment, I could pay them back before anyone noticed. But now... He trailed off, shaking his head. Dan's face went ghost white. Jesus, Carl, what did you get yourself into? Carl looked up, eyes bloodshot. Guys who don't exactly send reminder letters, if I don't come up with the cash soon, it's not just me on the line, they'll come after anyone they think I care about. My blood ran cold. Wait, so you dragged us into this, knowing it could put us in danger? Carl's jaw tightened. I didn't have a choice. Dan slammed his fist on the table, making the empty beer bottles rattle. You always have a choice, Carl. You chose to scam your own family instead of facing your mess like a man. Carl shot back, his voice breaking. What was I supposed to do? Admit to everyone I'm a failure, that I can't handle my life, I thought I could fix it before it blew up. I could feel my throat closing, anger and fear mixing in my chest. By dragging us into it, by trying to scam Mom, your own sister, you didn't just risk yourself, Carl, you risked all of us. For the first time, he didn't argue. He just sat there, breathing hard, eyes glassy. Dan ran a hand over his face, exhausted. Alright, here's what's gonna happen. You're going to come clean to Mom, no more lies, no more scams, and we'll figure this out legally and maybe even with the cops, because if you keep running, they will catch up to you, and none of us are going to cover for you again. Carl let out a bitter laugh, half a sob. You think the cops can protect me from these guys? Dan leaned in, deadly serious. Better them than Mom, better them than Lisa. If you care about anyone but yourself, you'll stop this now. The room went silent. For the first time, I think Carl actually heard him. He stared at the mess of papers on the floor, at the fake logos and empty promises scattered around him. His shoulders sagged like the fight had finally drained out of him. All right, he whispered. I'll tell her. I'll come clean. Dan and I exchanged a look of cautious relief mixed with dread. Because even if Carl meant it, we knew the road ahead would be messy. When we left that night, the binder of fake documents stayed behind, abandoned on the stained carpet. Carl didn't follow us to the door. He just sat there in the shadows, a broken man caught between his pride and his guilt. And as we drove back to Mom's house in silence, one truth burned in my chest. Sibling rivalry hadn't just poisoned their relationship. It had nearly destroyed our entire family. But maybe, just maybe, this was the breaking point Carl needed to finally stop.